Hello and welcome once again to the Roundtable, your weekly publishers and editors podcast here at the American Mind. I'm your host, Spencer Clavin, associate editor of the Claremont Review of Books and trilateral menswear editor of the American Mind. I'm joined this week by the sniggering crowd you hear in the background, snorting and chortling along, who are already off to a good start. Ryan Williams, publisher and president, Mike Sabo, managing editor, and Matthew Peterson, our now semi-regular guest and editor-in-chief at The Blaze. So we're going to have to start off, I think, this week with Russia, because it's all anybody's talking about. It's why I know the word trilateral, hereafter abbreviated to trilat, one of those terms that everyone on Twitter suddenly learned overnight.
It's what you get if you start working out 6 days a week, the trilat.
You've literally are you looking at my Twitter drafts, Ryan? I literally have a tweet queued up that says trilat, bilat. I'm just working on my lats. But that's to come. Well, Trump seems to suddenly have his eye on the prize when it comes to peace between Russia and Ukraine. He's moved very rapidly in the last couple of weeks on this. Not that it hasn't been a concern and an agenda item, but we've really gotten a lot of motion. Here is a list of things that have happened and the reasons why they mean Trump is bad, according to the press. He had a meeting in Alaska on this past Friday with Putin of Russia. They then gave a little sort of joint address in which both of them said it went well. They didn't give too much more information, and there's a lot of kind of behind the scenes kind of operating going on, I think, on both of their parts, which we can get into. This is bad, according to the press, because Trump didn't invite Zelensky to this meeting in which he was trying to work out a deal with Putin. Also because he gifted, according to MSNBC, a meeting on American soil. How could he have done that? Then he had Zelensky out for a meeting at the White House, plus a gathering of various European heads of state. This was bad, according to the press, because it made European leaders look humiliated, having to kiss Trump's ring and flatter him. And now he wants the infamous trilat, this three-way meeting with him, Putin, and Zelensky to bring the two sides together after having conferred with each of them individually. In advance of this, he's ruled out the possibility of American boots on the ground, although he has left open possibilities such as air support and other means of supporting Ukraine. This is bad, according to the press, because Trump really ought to just wave his magic wand and make the war never have happened instead of negotiating with big bad Putin, who is bad. And also Trump is bad. In reality world, Trump seems to be making real progress on this incredibly knotty international conflict. It is amazing, not to preview my own opinions about this, to watch in real time as legacy media roots against peace in Ukraine and Russia because it's Trump who's doing it. Meanwhile, Finnish President Alexander Stubb said, I think in the past 2 weeks, we've probably had more progress in ending this war than we have in the past 3.5 years. So it seems like those parties that are closest to the matter are at least willing to play ball with Trump, notably including Zelensky, who you may recall, we talked about it on the show. Zelensky had a disastrous presser with Trump at the White House. Last time he was here in America, there was a blow up with Zelensky, Trump, and Vance about his attire, about his haughty demeanor, about him, quote unquote, not holding the cards, but making all these demands and trying to slap Trump around, when really it was Trump and America that had the negotiating power. It seems to have gotten home to Zelensky that he needs to approach Trump differently than perhaps he approached the Democratic administration before him. So they had a much more friendly and respectful meeting after this conference, with some interesting kind of questions from the press, some digressions, not only into menswear. Zelensky finally wore a button-up shirt, although no tie, but a jacket, after having been kind of questioned harshly about this last time. But also ballot fraud, DC crime all came up. We were once again reminded that President Trump and President Zelensky actually have very, very similar speaking styles. They're both kind of slapstick stand up comedians. Melania got involved by writing a letter to Putin pleading with him to stop the war because of the children. And overall, I guess we're all kind of holding our breath to see whether there will be progress. There's still many, many obstacles here and things to be worked out. But what do you guys think? It sounds like we are making headway. No?
I like how the perennially multilateral diplomacy first left is saying, "Accept this diplomacy. We don't like it." That's well, we'll see. I mean, the proof of the pudding will be in the eating, of course, but it seems like progress to me. I also the visual comparison of the first Trump administration, that famous picture of him in Europe, arms crossed, with all the European leaders, including Merkel, sort of leaning over, trying to bludgeon him. At least that was the visual. And then the new one is Trump in the Oval Office at the Resolute desk with the pupils, that is the non-peer peers, all from Europe, sort of in 7 different, banquet chairs in front of his desk. I'm sure Trump enjoyed that quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, if this thing's gonna get done, it's gotta happen some way like this. The real question will be, what pressure, if any, are we bringing to bear on Putin behind the scenes to kind of move beyond his intractability in recent months? And it happens, of course, in light of about a week or maybe even 10 days worth of pretty significant Russian advances and breakthroughs on the battle space. So the open question is just, whether Putin's sick of the meat grinder and whether he thinks he can get what he wants out of this, or enough of it that he can sort of move on and it will be a net benefit to Russia to reach some settlement, getting a lot of what he wants, but not all of it, and the benefits to him domestically and for the Russian economy and all the rest will be worth it. I suspect maybe we're somewhere near that finally, but we'll see.
I know that one person will be very interested in Zelensky finally wearing a dress shirt. Derek Guy is, I'm sure, going to give him a 5-star review on that in the next Twitter post. But no, I agree. I think this is a very good thing. I think this is obviously in preparation, hopefully, for that trilateral meeting between Zelensky and Putin in person. I think that would be the first time that they would actually meet in person since I think it was 2019. And Zelensky actually came into office, interestingly enough, in Ukraine, talking about, he wanted to foster actually a much closer relationship with Russia, which was interesting. And this was after Russia annexed Georgia, Crimea. I think it was after that too. So, I mean, the press acting like, this is just more evidence of Hitler is just, of course, absolutely absurd. It's just full scale TDS. But, in reality, I mean, this is a good thing. It looks like we're on the way. Hopefully, it'll only be some weeks, maybe some months, until this war is actually ended. Wars ending are a very good thing, especially this one, where this kind of idea where Ukraine was going to basically give away nothing, no territory, and Putin was just going to sit by and basically open up his country. I mean, all this was just such utopian fantasies. Looks like that part of it was part of the security guarantees that Trump talked about. No limits on Ukraine's military size, which is interesting. Potential multinational forces, some NATO-style mutual defense clause, which is basically similar to Article 5. Fortunately, like Spencer said, no U.S. troops. We're still, looks like, going to be doing weapons deliveries, coordination with allies, etc. Trump backed a plan to cede the southern parts of Ukraine and eastern parts back. And there's a whole history there in terms of, is that actually Ukraine? Is it not? Is it historically Russian? Russia obviously has a deep interest, especially in their naval base in the south. So these things were always going to happen for this war to end. And, finally, it looks like that we really may be coming to peace.
By the way, just as a point of order, the menswear guy has been conspicuously silent about Zelensky's outfit, and I think that's because it's very ill-fitting, and he doesn't want to say that.
I find it. I mean, it is a great point that he doesn't talk about that. Certain things he doesn't like to talk about. But then again, we hope that he's facing deportation soon. So we'll see. I think the interesting thing, just like the media perspective on this, is that this summit, or whatever you want to call it, this meeting in Alaska, excised the demons of the last 10 years when it comes to foreign policy, coming off the heels of all the Russiagate revelations coming back up to the fore, with sort of adults in charge. You can see the discomfort in the left sort of falling apart, and then Russia, 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 and how dare he meet with Putin? Oh, he's going to screw it up. I mean, you see these people like, who do you think you are? You know, I mean, some journalist on TV is lecturing the administration officials about Karening them, right? We're really worried about what the president of the United States is doing with Putin, and we're very concerned about your foreign policy. But I feel like this was an adult meeting, and just even the visuals, despite what the legacy media is saying, it was sober, it was cold, it was in Alaska. They wanted to make fun of that. We had the governor of Alaska on our show at Blaze, and he described very eloquently the military position and geographic position that Alaska is in. It's a perfectly appropriate place to do such a meeting.
It turns out you actually can see Russia from Alaska.
Yeah.
After all these years, we find out. And in fact, yeah.
Now it's a problem for some reason.
Yeah, that's right.
And Alaska is, 24/7 strategically placed to have, American military activity going on. The bomber going overhead, and the making a big to do about that. This was a very serious American meeting, and the visuals took you back to the 1980s. And I think the seriousness of it and the way everyone assembled with Trump, as Ryan said, I think that despite the spluttering, this actually excised those demons of the last 10 years. And it's like foreign policy is now off to the races again. It doesn't matter what they say, they're falling apart. And so I think it was a moment of seriousness that was really, really needed. And I just don't want to, white pill, overly dramatic, like, everything's great, but it really feels to me like it's just the whole thing is over.
Are you saying the adults are in the room?
Yeah,
Matt, is
that's
that,
what it felt like.
Yeah.
I don't want to go crazy, but it just felt.
Don't speak too soon, but right. Okay.
I mean, it's like by hook or crook, this has to end. And if Trump does end this, it's the kind of win you really can't argue or explain away.
Well, that is the thing, right? And far be it from me to speculate about this stuff. I don't really, I'm not enough of an insider to have any knowledge here, but I think this is his midterm play. I mean, of course, it's something he wants to do, and we should all want there to be peace in this conflict. But when I think to myself, why now? I think if he does this, that's the midterms, or at least that's a round and solid kind of response to his critics in the midterms.
Well, let me say it's more than the midterms. According to Trump, it's like saving his eternal soul.
Yeah, I was just going to say. Trump has come out firmly and doctrinally as anti-Calvinist, because he said
that's right.
He was like, I don't know. I think I could get to heaven. Maybe if I save enough lives, I'll get to heaven.
Yeah, I'm hardest hit on that.
Blessed are the peacemakers. I mean, it does say that, and this is something, Matt. This media dimension of it is something that he talked about in the presser. It was one of his best moments, actually. He turned to Zelensky and said, "This is really no problem for me, but whatever we do, they'll say you did great. They'll say you were great, but whatever happens, it'll be, oh, Trump was bad. Whatever happens." And he's absolutely right about this. Every single thing that he has said, especially on this topic, has been mocked and decried. And, he said that he would have ended the war. The war would never have started if he had been president. How ridiculous. Now, of course, Putin has said that's true. And if anybody was responsible for not starting the war, it was Putin. Obviously, everything Putin says you want to take with a grain of salt, but that has now come back to vindication. The one thing that he said that was classic kind of Trumpian overstatement was, I'm going to end this on day one. And in one of these pressers, he said something like, I've ended a lot of war. I've ended 6 wars now, and I thought this was going to be the easiest, but it turns out it's not simple. There's a lot of different things, there's a lot of reasons for that. But the press matter really is kind of the story. In some ways, it's like this clash between their venomous, seething hatred for Trump and their Götterdämmerung, world-ending narrative about the Ukraine war. And when Biden was in office, it was comfortable for them to morally posture about, like, we must put boots on the ground, like, we must immediately end this thing. And now it's like a test. Now that Trump seems to be potentially ending or facilitating the end of this war, it's like a test. Which do they hate more, Trump or Putin? And I think the answer is like Trump. Anything Trump does, they're against. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, just two things quick. I mean, I don't mean to. I agree with the midterms point too. I think this is just the president acting in the full power of the office for the most serious foreign policy matter in the world, and that just there's just like so much to counter for the left. This really puts that over the top, and I mean also the boomer side of Trump that you mentioned, where he's still everyone's going to say bad things about me. For some reason, he makes that endearing, which otherwise I would find very annoying. But it's like he's still, after all these years, right? He's still going to say, "You're still going to say all these bad things about me." Like they're going to say these bad things, but it still stings. Like every once in a while, he still has to punch on True Social, like this New York Times article was ridiculous. He can't help it.
He's like, because he goes, I used to get great press. It was like kind of sad. Yeah, there is like a real everyman element to him about that, I think. And he's obviously, right, like still affected by it. Meanwhile, he's like using this presser to talk about him to sort of like throw in a bunch of other stuff like ballot security and his DC crime measures, which seem to be going pretty well. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, Ryan, Mike, what do you guys think? Like, is it too cynical of me to say, like, in the same way that when Obama came out and announced the death of bin Laden, everyone was kind of like, that's his second term, right? Like he's winning re-election now. If he comes out and says, like, I've ended this war, there's something kind of irrefutable about that, unless the country like plummets in some other way.
Yeah, I think that's right. The question would be, and I hate to put it this way, especially with so many lives at stake, but if I could be completely coldly Machiavellian and cynical about it, it would be good if this dragged out for 10 months and then it got solved like 6 weeks before the election, the midterms. But we won't. We'll just float that as the weird way in which American politics work.
I can hear the Media Matters editors clipping this as we speak. They're actually like, while we talk, they're like,
it's my commentary.
Ukrainians to die so that in the election.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, you saw just an initial. I saw some flitting headline that Trump approval jumps a little bit after Putin Ukraine stuff. It's early days yet, of course, but I can't imagine any way in which this wouldn't be a huge net positive for Trump politically, with some carryover effects for the foreseeable future, because it was it is in many ways the war that happened on Biden's watch, which he seemed unable to do much about other than just throwing money at the Ukrainians and fueling one side of a fairly nasty and technologically interesting and new war of attrition. And if Trump could fix it, I think that would be great for a variety of reasons. And I think it would be good for him politically. Yeah, I can't see how it wouldn't be. And it may even transcend the fickle nature of our news cycle politics, and have a lasting positive effect, no matter when it's finally. I mean, it will take months. There's no way this is going to be over in a week, but never say never, I guess. Maybe, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe even, the new MSNBC, well, they're not even going to be NBC any longer. I mean, if that actually happens, I mean, they might actually say, hey, maybe this is actually a good thing for America. I mean, I could see them spinning it, still somehow against Trump. I mean, what if Trump somehow wins the Nobel Peace Prize, and that after that would happen? That would be incredible. I would be stunned if that would happen. I mean, that would just totally drain, the international kind of elite and regime of like any kind of authority at all, and it would be such a self-own, honestly, on their part. But it would
Pax Donaldiana. It's the great age of Donaldian peace. Yeah.
Yeah.
Be the day.
So, I can't think of how that wouldn't help Trump. I mean, how much would it help carry over, the midterms? I mean, like Ryan kind of implied, I mean, there's a lot that could happen, especially domestically until 2026. And then too, could that translate to, say JD Vance run in 2028? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, politically, luck and timing, matter a lot. Obviously, we want this all to happen, and it'll be interesting to see. I think the question really isn't, now if it's probably more when, but it'll be, it'll be, I think, a coup for Trump.
By the way, on the MS Now thing, the commentator who won the day on our show at Blaze was the one who said, multiple sclerosis now. And now every time I hear
Yeah.
MS Now, I just think of the disease and, MS Now.
Right.
And that
It's
logo, whatever the hell it is, unbelievable.
Clip art.
it's like a curse. Yeah. Oh
There's
boy.
like, does anyone have any marketing people on staff? Because
Mhm.
Miss Now, that's what it looks like, like Ms. Now. It's like
Mhm.
it's the single cat lady of mainstream media now.
Mhm.
And then it just reminded me of we never really commented on this, but the WNBA's brief flirtation with let her cook as their slogan for which is like the kid meme version of I described it to some family member of mine. I think it was talking to my mother and my brother at the same time, both in Florida. And my mother said, "Let her cook. What does that mean?" And I had to explain what let him or let her cook means. And then I was just backfired with the WNBA. You'd think like a marketing intern would have said, uh, well, this maybe is not the best way to approach it. And it may backfire. And this predates any of the dildo throwing incidents.
Yeah, they're not sending their best social media advisors, it would seem, and we're gonna get into yet more of that in just a second here. But well, I guess we'll just have to wait until the third lat drops to find out to find out where this is going. I guess we're all hoping it'll succeed. I mean, we definitely are all hoping it'll succeed for any number of reasons.
Trilatimus Maximus.
Try Latimus Mac. I think that was a transformer. Was that like one of the Opticons? Yeah, it turns into a giant shoulder, giant back muscle.
It just
Okay,
reminds
well,
me. Sorry, it reminds me of one more pop culture reference, but now ancient.
yeah.
One of the great lines from The Simpsons is Lisa says something in Latin, and then Bart calls her a Dorcas Malorcas.
Yeah, I actually remember that.
Well, with these pop culture references, and maybe we'll do we'll make up some culture at the end of the show. But we have two great young employees here, and just recently hired. And my buddy here, Peter, was saying, managing editor of Frontier Magazine, he's saying they don't know anything about movies. And I'm thinking, don't be a boomer. Like you're just, you're me, a Gen Xer like me. He's younger than I am. They probably just haven't, seen a lot. They're younger, whatever. But
Yeah.
then we came back to the office. We were at lunch, and he started asking them like, "Have you seen Jaws?" The answer was no. Like Quentin Tarantino. I mean, these are smart guys because they've been reading books, not watching TV. But it did make me realize like this gap may be worse than we think. Anyway,
Oh, yeah. The ancient ways do not persist, Matt. It's really
no,
kind of unnerving, and I think it's a measure of how dead movies are. Like
Hmm.
it's that they haven't lived in it. Well, this is a whole separate segment that we could probably get into, but like they've probably never lived in a culture where it felt like movies that were currently coming out had any urgency. So why would it occur to them to go back and watch old movies that exist? It's like this is not an art form that has anything to say. Okay, well, yeah, this that we could make the whole rest of this podcast about cinema, but we won't. Instead, we are going to talk about a car crash. How's that for a hard pivot?
Oh, but Matt, you'll be happy to know that my 6.5-year-old Albert knows of Jaws and asks us every week, "Am I old enough to watch Jaws now?" And
Yeah.
Amelia says no.
No.
no, it's like this is like a basic male desire to be terrified by Jaws and want to see the scary movie, and that's not even there because of what Spencer's talking about. And it's on the other hand, I'll say that my 7-year-old daughter knows all about Uncle Jesse getting married and having twins. For those who know that reference, and so there is like this recursion back to things that people find and go, "Oh, this is very comforting," but it's a weird, fractured environment.
For our young listeners, that is a reference to a sitcom from the 90s called Full House.
Yes.
Yes. Well, I'm glad to see that both of you believe in classical education in your homes, Ryan and Matt. Just Jaws and Full House.
That's right.
This is a conservative podcast after all. Um, yeah, I as long as the kids are like will at some point get to discover Super Nintendo, I won't lose hope altogether. And this is my nephew has been thoroughly schooled in the ways of Super Mario, for, by yours truly for this reason.
I had a brief, exhilarating Jaws moment, at least in my mind, and I conveyed it to Albert. We were in Cape Cod a month ago, and we were riding the Peter Pan bus in from Logan Airport, and they were celebrating Shark Week, and their data point was that the largest great white ever tagged was being tracked off of Nantucket. And so I told Albert, Jaws is coming from Uncool.
IRL, baby. IRL. I don't watch the movie.
He's staring at the ocean, right, every day, thinking like, "Holy crap!" Screw it. Let's talk about it a little bit more before we get to the car crash.
No, please. As long as postpone it, as long as you want.
So video game wise, I'm over feeling like a bad parent for this, but I was kind of worried because my 12-year-old, all he would do is play Fortnite in his allotted hour at night during the summer. Very addictive personality. Play with his little buzzy friends, and they whatever. And I got them Skyrim and Red Dead Redemption, to kind of like get them into open world games. And in Red Dead, all he did was he learned it from his older cousin too. They just played the most retarded way possible. They just go into the town and shoot people and rob things, and then they had a bounty on their head. So in the game, wherever you go, you have to just run from the cops. And so that's all they did. And I was like, guys, if you just like go over there and talk to that guy, because if you do this mission, it'll be great. And they're like, blow the guy up, and just that's all they did. But it's not the game. So I was like the boomer. I was like the Karen,
Right.
Follow the rules, play the story.
Supposed to do it. Do they know that Grand Theft Auto exists? Like, it sounds like maybe that's the next one.
Yeah. See, I'm trying to be good. But Gabe's the kind of kid like, Skyrim, you get to that one point, it's an open world game. And if you don't know, you're wandering around in this fantastical realm and you see like a chicken and you decide to kill the chicken and then all the villagers come after you and take you out. That's Gabe. He's just going to do it. So the other day, this was a point of the story. Is the other day, I go in there and, he's in his hour and all of a sudden he's like actually playing the missions and exploring the open world game. Okay. And I had this mixed feeling of like partially like, what have you done as a father? And why are you also happy because you feel like he's progressed in his education?
Yes, you've constrained his boyish energy. You are one of these feminizing educators we all hear about. No, you've just channeled it into this.
But it's like he's evolved now. Now he's like, oh, Dad, I have a ton of money and I still rob things, but now I play this mission and these Indians came and it's pirates and blah, 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 and we're doing this. And you're like, okay, I guess this is good, I think.
Yeah.
Why am I happy?
Goal for life. See, never let anyone say that video games don't have any educational value. Side note, Fortnite is too fast for me because I'm an old man. I never feel older than when I watch the kids playing Fortnite because I can't even. I don't know if you've ever tried it, Matt. So like get in with it. Did you take my advice and get them Expedition 33? Is the other question.
No, I have that written down on my phone, but I failed to get it for them.
All right. Okay. So far as I know, there are no ways in that game to like incur the wrath of the citizenry, but I haven't tried hard enough. Maybe. Okay. Speaking of they're not sending their best,
I'm still imagining Ryan's son looking out at the ocean, thinking about that shark.
Daddy, when can we watch Jaws? We're going to live Jaws, son. Okay. This really, I feel you have to laugh so that you can keep from crying. This is a report. The Blaze and a number of other places have reported on this really awful car crash. Harjinder Singh, 28 years old, and I'm going to say allegedly at the beginning because I think you're supposed to when you say these sorts of things, allegedly made an illegal U-turn on the Florida Turnpike. He was in a tractor trailer. He jackknifed onto a passenger vehicle. And there are 3 people dead because of this: a 54-year-old man, a 37-year-old woman, and a 30-year-old man. The Department of Highway Safety in Florida, where he was driving, said that he seems to have been acting recklessly, making a U-turn in an illegal area. Besides which, during the course, I'm quoting now from the Department of Highway Safety, during the course of this criminal investigation and with the assistance of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, state troopers determined that Harjinder Singh entered the United States illegally, having crossed the Mexico border in 2018. The defendant then obtained a commercial driver's license in the state of three guesses. Three guesses which state it was.
Alaska?
That's right. It came over from Russia. Harjinder Singh, famous Russian name. Yeah, and Alaska's border with Mexico is notorious. No, it was actually Rhode Island. No, I'm kidding. It was California, the Golden State, which admitted this person. He proceeded to fail both his English and his road sign tests, but somehow got a license anyway. Naturally, this has become
a commercial license, we should add. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, commercial license. That's what the Department of Highway Safety made a point of mentioning. And yeah, so this has obviously become a flashpoint. There are so many of these now that it would be kind of fruitless to list all of the high profile cases involving crimes and in many cases fatal crimes by illegal aliens. Obviously, Laken Riley and Jocelyn Nungare, I believe is how you say it. Not totally sure, but they were both at the address that Trump gave to Congress, or their family were both at the address that Trump gave to Congress, because these women were killed by illegal immigrants in the U.S. In the UK, there was a major flashpoint when the three girls at a Taylor Swift concert were killed by, I believe in this case, it was the child of immigrants, Axel Ruda Kubana, age 18. You could go on and on. Obviously, the point is not that, when you start to talk about this, people instantly say, well, the vast majority of crimes are committed by locals. And of course, this is true, but they then don't look at, the percentage of illegal immigrants who then go on to commit more crimes, or in fact, the major point that people are really reacting to, which is, why was this person in the country in the first place? There should be zero crimes committed by illegal immigrants, because there should be zero illegal immigrants. What to say about this, you guys? I mean, the political climate is obviously such that things have changed. It's now okay to deplore this. What sorts of things do you think might come of this? And just more generally, I guess, what do you make of it?
It encapsulates the change in policy and shows one of the causes for the changes in public opinion over the last 8 years on this topic, which has been dramatic, which is to say that there's been like I forget what it is, a 25 or 30 point swing in people's view of immigrants in general and immigration. The U.S. populace has generally been against illegal immigration in recent decades, but they were pretty comfortable with immigration as such, and even letting in more immigrants up until the Biden years and the influx of whatever number it is, 10, 12, 20 million, take your pick, and your estimates as you will. And the details from the piece that Blaze did on it that Matt sent over, public affairs officer at DHS said that Singh's work authorization for the United States was rejected under the Trump administration on September 14, 2020, but then was later approved under the Biden administration on June 9th, 2021. So not only is Gavin Newsom in a diffuse way responsible for this awful death of three people, but so is the Biden administration. And their collective and, tangential as it is, culpability for this and countless other problems and disturbances and public order problems and crimes are the reason that the Democratic Party, a big reason why the Democratic Party lost the 2024 election and continues to slide out of touch with the American people. And so it's just an illustrative little example of this shift. And I think, it's just one more piece in the Newsom Oppo file for when he wants to run for president in 2028. And it will be interesting to see how he tries to overcome this long list, whether it be COVID or illegal immigration or his, well-documented triangulation after COVID and et cetera. So I'm very interested to see how the public perceives a Newsom run for president, and how both his opponents in the primary use this sort of thing and hang it around his neck, and how he deals with these problems. And it will tell us a lot, I think, about the mood of the Democratic primary electorate and the Democratic constituency in general, to see how far he makes it. we've said before that he's a very dangerous man politically, because has this rare quality that Bill Clinton had as well, which is every lie he tells, while he's telling it, he believes very sincerely, and you can tell. So he's very good at lying smoothly and facilely, and so we'll see how that plays. But this will be one data point among many that his opponents can use to try to demonstrate that he's bad for the country in all sorts of ways.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a huge black mark on what the Democrats stand for in immigration. I mean, it's kind of almost unbelievable. I guess it was in 2013, so before Newsom, but obviously Newsom, was, for this in office, and the trucker got all these things and, ability to drive, etc. Newsom let that happen. But I mean, this was in 2013, where California passed a law allowing residents to obtain driver's licenses regardless of their immigration status. That's incredible. I mean, this and DHS, they kind of described, what was going on. He actually, like you said, obtained a commercial driver's license, which I mean, just absolutely makes this whole thing worse. Here's a guy who shouldn't be in the United States at all. I think he illegally immigrated here in 2018. In DHS, basically,
across the Mexican border.
Yeah, across the Mexican border. Exactly. Like, in DHS, I think they said it really well in their statement. Governor Newsom put Americans' lives directly at risk by arming this illegal alien with the ability to operate a 40-ton killing machine on U.S. highways. This reckless policy gave Singh the keys, and 3 innocent people paid with their lives. I mean, that is just, it's sad, it's shocking, it's horrific. And it also just shows the depths of how badly the Democrats have mangled and fallen on this issue, how out of step they are. And it just shows their policies, I mean, led to this. Like, there's no other way to talk about that. You can deny it all you want, but this is such a clear case. And I'll end with this too. I mean, you wonder, okay, if this guy did this, how many other truck drivers even are out there who don't know what they're doing, should not be driving at all, don't even have a license, should not have had a license. It's a disaster the Democrats making, and I think this will obviously politically help Trump and Republicans, but even above politics, it's very sad commentary in the state of the Democratic Party.
It's also an illustration of the extent. I mean, this has been a trend in trucking that I didn't realize until recently, is that both illegal and legal recent immigrants are surging into the trucking job market for good reason. They're pretty well-paying jobs, but it's interesting that this quintessential kind of American blue-collar job that was at the center of this debate years ago between Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro, on where Tucker was basically saying, yeah, I mean, if self-driving cars are going to replace this quintessential and well-paying American blue-collar job, then hell yeah, I'll ban self-driving trucks. This was this libertarian versus kind of economic nationalist flashpoint of, maybe 8 years ago now, but long before Tucker went on to his new adventure on independent platform. And so it's telling and interesting politically for that reason too.
Yeah, this puts me in mind of this guy we were happy to platform and publish a little while back, named Gord McGill, who is a trucker himself. And he's writing a book, in fact, called End of the Road, Inside the War on Truckers. And Gord just, he came out a couple times when trucking made the news and did a good job of explaining to people the kind of policies that have led to this. So as we were talking, I just told my guys we need to get him to write another op-ed on the Indian trucker, because it's become such a flashpoint. But just looking at what he was saying, he said we need Sean Duffy to take a page out of Miller's playbook and then use it, Stephen Miller's playbook, and then use it on the clowns at the American Trucking Association and the shippers in this country who have made millions by using bottom feeder carriers employing in-source labor whose incompetence kill innocent motorists. And he has shocking statistics that this incident, as you're saying, Ryan, is not a one-off. This is an industry that has started to outsource to illegals. And he's saying the secretary should invoke eminent hazard in every chameleon carrier under investigation for these crashes, and needs to unilaterally revoke all limited term or non-domicile CDLs, which is that give these people licenses, easy temporarily, or, they find excuses to let people like this guy who can't even speak English or pass a driving test or drive. they'll stop that until hundreds of thousands of illegals and migrants swept into the industry can be retested. And so, McGill's been out there saying this for a while, but this is now, I feel like exactly what you guys are saying, and right, just to chime in. On the one side, you have Newsom and his memes and his surge this week on social media with lefties, Democrats getting excited or pretending they're excited. On the other side, you have this flashpoint of people dying because of Newsom's policy. And I feel like, again, it's like excising the demons of the last few decades, where I just don't see anyone saying anything about racism or anything else. Everyone's just saying this is awful, and I'm sick of pretending otherwise. There's no way this guy should be on the road. This is a clown world of a system. It needs to stop. And it's one of these turning point moments that seem to happen every week now. And on the other end of it, you got Newsom. I'm fascinated by these attempts to meme by this woman, proud Latina, right, with the hat, who is the new social media star of the left because she's memeing for Newsom. And every time I see these memes, it's like the opposite of of this horrific tragedy. This is a horrific tragedy where 3 people are dead because a guy does a Yui. I mean, in an insane situation, he can't pass a test. He can't speak English. He shouldn't be here anyway. The Trump administration tried to get rid of him. And this is a very serious incident. On the other side, and it's very clear cut. On the other side, you have Newsom's memery. And every time I see the memes, I'm like, it's like walking into, I don't know, like a room full of nerds trying to make fun of the cool kids, and they don't know quite how to do it. And it's like awkward for them because they're all excited about it. Or like I tweeted about it this morning. I mean, it reminded me of like watching the Christian right or the right in the past try to make a movie and then get all excited about the crap they created. Like trying to make culture and then get excited about, like, we made a movie and we have movie stars too, like back in the day. And then they're excited about it too, which is the cringe factor. And it's not even like the memes don't even make sense. It's like, I see what you're trying to do something here and you're getting excited about it. And that's nice, kids, but memes are for us, I mean, I don't know. And everyone's acting like it's serious, like they're really excited, Brat Summer all over again. And this time is different. And I agree about the danger of Newsom and people rallying by him. But I mean, the difference between the two events couldn't be starker, I think.
Well, this is a good segue into, with our remaining time, we should kind of discuss the viability of this new left approach, which Gavin is obviously doing what all of the outlets have been saying the left needs to do, right? We've got to connect to this audience that Trump got by going on Rogan. We need bro podcasters. We need memes. We need a Joe Rogan of the left, right? And as was pointed out at the time, the major problem was that Joe Rogan was the Joe Rogan of the left until he was repulsed by leftist policies and leftist ideas. So if your way of being and your program for the country is inherently repulsive, not just to bro podcasters, but to the people that bro podcasters represent, which is like normal humans with not that much malice in their hearts, no more malice than any fallen individual, that just want to kind of get along and build a family and live a normal life. And if you have like set your teeth against that at a philosophical level in your party, then you're unlikely to win that crowd over, except artificially, right? Except in this sort of second language, aping the gestures of the place where all the real energy is, which is now on the right. And it's very weird to be in a situation where that's true, because it's almost always been the opposite way in my lifetime, as you indicated, Matt. It's almost always been the cool kids are the leftists. They're the ones with the style and the sensibility and the flair. And there are some inherent advantages, I think, to leftism and when it comes to art and to sort of style. And it's always been the right that's kind of like limping along behind, trying to imitate what the left is doing. Now the roles seem, at least in this domain, to be very much reversed. It's hard to think of a more inept parody of Trumpism than what Newsom's press account is doing. And the fact that they are doing it is the most significant thing of all. It's like the fact that this is the idiom Newsom thinks he needs now to wear as a skin suit shows you how completely Trumpism and the Trump demeanor has dominated the culture. Compare this to a guy that I have been trying to get us to talk about on the podcast like all year. And I know that I'm deep in the pocket of the Hassan Piker lobby, and I'm sorry that I've been like pushing for this. But I just think this is somebody who should be on our radar and on our listeners' radar, because this is the one guy that I think of when I ask, like, who is the naturally Joe Rogan-esque dude on the left? Like, Gavin Newsom posting Ghibli memes or whatever he's doing does not scare me. I don't get worried about that. Like the New York Times fretting about how can we reach these strange anthropological oddities called men, like that does not scare me. Hassan Piker scares me a little bit because I look at Piker and he's got this huge Twitch following. He kind of blew up right around the same time as a lot of these guys did during the pandemic. He is the nephew of, I never know how to say this guy's name, Cenk Uygur or whoever, the Young Turk. So he had a little bit of a leg up, but he's also got a ton of natural charisma. He just did this episode, which is worth like looking at. You don't have to watch. It's like an hour long, and it might set your teeth on edge. So if you can't bear the whole thing, just like drop into it. But he did an episode with Zoran Mamdani, who is the like sort of socialist mayoral candidate in New York. And I have to say, on one level, it might be a bit of a bad sign for Mamdani that he feels like he has to do this episode. But he's certainly like the fit is really remarkable because Mamdani also a little bit less fluently than Piker, but still with some ability, like speaks the language of the self-conscious New York leftist bro. And that brand is on full display in this episode. And they're very charming, I have to say. They're very witty and light on their feet and quick and charming. And it takes them like 40 minutes into this interview before they really get down to brass tacks. They're just kind of kidding around, but they're making jokes about their disastrous leftist policies, making it look stylish and fashionable. So I guess my question for you guys is like, is this the future of the Democrat Party? Like, is it not AOC? Is it not Gavin Newsom? Is it the hip, young, and just off-white socialist leftist dude? Because it feels like that's where the energy is, and that's what allows them to circumvent their otherwise immutable hatred of manhood and masculinity. Is like vaguely ethnic masculinity has always been sort of allowed. And I just wonder, like, you know, are we looking at the answer to the Democrats' predicament taking shape in this kind of imitation Trumpism or whatever?
I don't know about the off-color ethnic populism as being the key to the future of the Democratic Party. I'll just say more generally, Spencer, what I said a few weeks ago, which is that leftist populism is coming for your party, Dems. And so far, I have not really seen much of a wrench being thrown in that cycle or that machine. I think it will continue. Given the some of the recent history of Democratic Party populism or leftism, I think it could just as easily take the form of some young, savvy white socialist mimicking these guys and their popularity. So we'll see. I don't. Well, the things to watch, right? The things to watch are: will AOC knock off Chuck Schumer and become a senator from New York? And if she does that, will she be then even better positioned, which I think she will be, to run against a Gavin Newsom in a primary in 2028? Yes, and yes, I think. And then Mamdani, of course, is precluded from running for president because he's not a natural-born citizen. But he's as we've said, he's a harbinger for what's to come. And I think AOC will just be young and hip enough, and she has certainly shown her savvy in small dollar fundraising that she will be quite a formidable force in the primary in 2028 for the Democrats. So many things are afoot. You know, if you're Pelosi or Schumer, you must regard these new developments with some amount of horror, because I think even they recognize that they're both, especially Pelosi, a little too old to ride this tiger anymore. And it's slipping from their grasp and off the leash.
And I know it's early, the AOC, versus Schumer, match. But I mean, just even from what I've seen, I think just earlier this week, I mean, I think she's up like double digits right now. And I think she's got energy. I think it's kind of a mirror image of what the Republicans are still going through to the extent, the establishment, obviously, versus, kind of outsider, kind of populist forces. I mean, I've heard, Democrats certainly talk about crystal ball on breaking points. She's been talking about this for a long, long time. So, yeah, I mean, you certainly have these kind of populist forces on that side who, seem to be kind of getting into a good position for the future. The Democratic Party, never say never. I mean, they're obviously going to be back in some way, shape, or form. That they're not just gonna just break up and never going to be, any kind of, problem for Republicans ever again. I mean, it could be as early as, 2028, definitely. But I think that probably is at least some kind of the future. But I also see kind of what Newsom is trying to do right now and some others. I mean, they're just trying to do this kind of like cardboard cutout 2D version of kind of Trumpism of, oh, I'm going to do the podcast. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. The problem is all that is so far behind. I mean, they're back in 2020. They're back in 2022. It's like there's just not a lot of new ideas. I mean, just like the movies this year. I mean, it's just kind of all retread stuff. But, I think they at least have some of the personalities to figure some things out, at least on that level, and maybe not make it so much about politics, but make it about personality. In terms of, even a guy like Mandami, he seems to be getting popular not only for the exotic nature of his background, but then too, kind of what he's standing for in New York, putting caps on rent and other things that, probably 80-20 issues. So he's trying to kind of do Trump in that way. And that's not, I think, getting as much press as it should. So I think that these are all forces that certainly we need to be wary of, we need to look at, because the Democrats are not down and out, and liberalism is always kind of a mutating thing that is certainly going to be taking a new form, that we can't, hope to kind of figure out, but it's always going to be there.
It's hard for me. I mean, first off, I can't think of Piker without hearing Sam Hyde's voice. His son. If you don't know who Sam Hyde is, you can look him up. I won't explain. Salt to taste, Hyde. Kind of a wild man. But Piker, I think it's right to point him out because, like, what's the difference between him and Mamdani is the New York guy reads as elite to me, and we'll see. I mean, he might be able to. He's definitely trying to address populist issues, as some of you pointed out, some media on the thread. I mean, he's trying to address the same issues that allowed Trump to win, but the solutions are pretty out there. I mean, they're pretty radical, and okay, maybe that works in a primary in New York City. Will that translate? It might translate to a lot of the country, but it strikes me that that's a 30% of the country kind of thing, not a 40%. 20 to 30% who may in fact want to secede from America if this keeps on going, or self-deport, which I'm fine with. But I think that it's hard for me to see that taking a majority. Piker seems more dangerous because he does have a more charismatic or maybe broad-based potential support. But the problem that these guys have is it has to translate to normal people. And champagne socialism has been around a while. Being feeded by even the upper middle class isn't enough. You need blue collar support. So the question is, can someone like Piker, right, not be on an NPR podcast and actually reach normal people? I think that's the problem they have right now, and that's a real problem. I believe. I think that Piker gives off a better aura. Is more dangerous in a sense in that way. But can you really translate that to to a lot of people? Maybe, but you'd have to drop a lot of these other, like, you could go back to sort of Roosevelt, I'm going to help the poor kind of socialism. But you'd have to drop some of this crazier stuff that normal people just don't buy.
Yeah,
And
I mean, this is the thing that has hampered them, is like they're already committed to the maximalist position on that, and they're committed to, if you don't have the maximalist position, you're literally Satan. So they've all said that on the record. How can they then turn around and say the things that they just said make you Satan? I think that's a really good point, Matt. And I think that, like, we shall see whether you can sell socialism on the sheer force of charisma. They're I think they're definitely going to try. I think that's been the danger of AOC. It's the danger of Hassan. We gotta wrap up. So maybe we will just say, watch this space. I'm tempted to make the whole rest of this show just a continuation of our conversation about whether movies will ever be watched by the kids again. But instead, let's just do some cultural recommendations. Ryan, I know you got to run, so why don't you go first?
It pulls in so many threads, my recommendation here, including some catch up for the Utes. So a lot of these names will not mean much to our young listeners, but maybe
so
more
take
to
notes. Pull out your notebook. This is your
Boomer and
homework.
Gen X listeners. So Jaws, for those that don't know, really the summer blockbuster was made by Jaws. That's why we have this cycle of action movies. Fabulously successful movie. Spielberg, of course, directed it. So it debuted this new thing, and it catered to a younger audience that was then the core audience for summer blockbusters for many decades hence, and even still in a way updated for the young people now, hence superhero movies, etc. every summer. So Jaws was super popular. It spawned some folks who wanted to ride those coattails, which leads me to the 1977 much lesser known marine horror movie Orca, which I saw as a teenager, and it made an impression on me. And I asked Grok for a deeper dive because it'd been a while since I'd looked at the reasons this came about. But these are wonderful and historical notes for us. The screenplay was penned by Italian writers Luciano Vincenzoni and Sergio Donati, who had worked on spaghetti westerns like For a Few Dollars More and Duck, You Sucker. Their script aimed to anthropomorphize the orca, emphasizing its emotional depth and vengeful drive, though it was criticized for weak dialogue and heavy-handed melodrama. To bring gravitas to the film, De Laurentiis assembled a surprisingly strong cast for what was essentially a Jaws knockoff. Richard Harris, fresh off roles in major films like The Cassandra Crossing, was cast as Captain Nolan, the guilt-ridden fisherman. Charlotte Rampling played Rachel Bedford, a cetologist, while Will Sampson, known for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, another great 1975 film, portrayed a Native American with orca knowledge. Bo Derek in her film debut, and veterans like Keenan Wynn and Robert Carradine, another great name from the 70s and 80s, rounded out the ensemble. Harris, in particular, threw himself into the role, performing his own stunts and nearly dying multiple times during production, adding to the film's chaotic lore. So just go check out Orca. But if you haven't seen Jaws, you must watch Jaws first. Orca is a lot of fun. If you like that sort of genre, kind of campy, but as you can see, some real thought and talent put behind it, 1977 marine horror movie, Orca.
All right. To all our Zoomer listeners, you are not actually permitted to attend the next episode of the Roundtable unless you complete this homework before you come back.
I have to run, but so I'm just gonna go really quickly.
Do it, yeah.
It's a movie that I haven't seen that was recommended to me called The Wraith. I think it's 1986. Charlie Sheen. This guy gets killed, comes back as a ghost in this futuristic car, and then kills everyone using the vehicle.
Nice.
And I'm just looking at it like this looks like 80s camp. That's awesome. And I'm looking at it also thinking there could be a remake of this that could be sick. So
Matt just drops that $1 million idea and bounces. It's like whoever wants to pick that one up, go remake Wraith. Nice. Mike, what do you got?
Yeah, so I actually do have a Jaws connection, but before that, actually a friend let me know. So I think I said last week the Washington Bullets were named. It was the NBA team in DC, and now it's the Washington Wizards, somehow due to crime in DC, etc. So that was wrong. They were actually, before they were the Washington Bullets, they were the Baltimore Bullets. And the owner named it so because he wanted it faster than a speeding bullet. They moved to Washington. Crime started to go, especially in the 90s, and he wanted to rename them because he didn't want, obviously, that connotation with the NBA basketball team. So I wanted to let everybody know about that. So I watched, actually, speaking of Jaws, and I love Jaws. I still remember as a kid watching it for the first time, probably 8 or 9, especially the famous scene where they're, diving, they go under that boat. Richard Dreyfuss is looking in this giant hole that the shark bit into, and it's still there. And then this head rolls right into the hole. And I'll always remember that scene. It made me jump just out of my skin the first time I saw it. But there's a great documentary actually on HBO about Spielberg, about his movies. It goes through Jaws, it goes through Schindler's List, it goes through Jurassic Park, all the greats, and just kind of, where he came from, the state he was in during some of those movies, what people thought of him. He was kind of some, kind of genius, who was just elevated to such a role that, people kind of didn't like him at first. They didn't think he was capable of doing anything serious. And then came, movies like The Color Purple in the 80s, and then clearly Schindler's List. I think they came out actually 1993. I think that was the same year that Jurassic Park came out. And then obviously Saving Private Ryan later that decade. So just a really good documentary. And especially if you're someone like me who, really misses going to the movies, misses seeing that, summer blockbuster that, everybody has to see, that's really just evolved into this kind of like post-Marvel boring slop that it just nobody cares about. I know that Mission Impossible movie came out, which I definitely want to see. I still have not seen it, but it's just the movies have just tanked so much. It's kind of like music in a way, and it's just sad. So we hope that some kind of cultural renaissance can happen, because it's sad to watch what's happening in movies and music both.
I am a bad person because I don't like Schindler's List. I can't even say Schindler's List. I will defend that view on a separate podcast.
Okay, I was going to say that's I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, I think it is a bad movie, but there are other Spielberg movies that you mentioned that are also really good, in my opinion. This to be continued on that front. I will defend that view. Mike, it's you and me on the graveyard shift here. Matt and Ryan both had to run to another appointment, so I'm gonna just deliver my recommendation to an almost empty room here. But our listeners are still with us, we hope. And since we're talking about the sort of emptiness of cinema, and I am, by the way, on record as having declared the death of movies, time of death. I wrote on April 16th, 2021. Was Godzilla versus Kong. That is when the movies died.
Yeah.
But so don't go see Godzilla versus Kong. But if you ask, like, what is taking the place of what used to be the vital and fascinating art of contemporary cinema, not that there aren't good movies made these days, it's just that the art form as a whole has ceased to become the urgent kind of national cultural unifier that it once was. I think that the next thing is taking shape right now among AI content creators on TikTok and Instagram Reels. Now, hear me out. I know what you're going to say. AI is an evil, slop producing creativity killer. And it's certainly true that many people are using AI to justify or excuse their already pre-existing total lack of artistic creativity and taste. However, it's also the case that this fabulous new tool with all sorts of amazing applications is being used by humans with creative vision as this wild kind of new medium for experimentation. And one thing that it's really good at, because it is fundamentally a satanic entity with no soul, is producing horror. If you like horror, if you like creepy stuff, if you like kind of like the term is analog horror, sort of old fashioned and retro looking horror stories, ghost stories. There are a lot of accounts currently on Instagram making really fascinating material. It's not all of it is quite there yet. It's more like suggestive than it is fully realized. But I think some of these creators are going to actually develop their craft into genuinely amazing material. So if that's the kind of thing that interests you, check out on Instagram The Holy Fool, The Archive in Between, The Pale Lodge. Yeah, I could go on, but those are a few to get you started. And then if you do check those out, your algorithm will surely start to recommend some others to you as well. But if that's just too weird for you, then forget I said anything. All right, that's enough. Quite enough time. We can shut this podcast down. Thank you all for listening to the Roundtable. If you like our work, you will love The American Mind, which is the website we run at americanmind.org. Our sister publication, the Claremont Review of Books, has a new issue dropping next week online at ClaremontReviewOfBooks.com. If you're not a subscriber, you will not be able to read all the articles in full, and you won't get to cuddle and cherish your personal Dead Tree edition, which will arrive in your mailbox only if you are a subscriber. If you're not, I command you to mend your ways by going to ClaremontReviewBooks.com. It's going to be a great issue. If you would like to donate to support our work, we would be most grateful. You can go to claremont.org/donate. And you can check out our DC-based Center for the American Way of Life at dc.claremont.org. Thanks to our production crew, the brothers G, Jake, and Ryan Yannon. And thanks very much to all of you for listening. We will talk to you next week.